The first lie wasn't even spoken. It was written, in a message she didn't mean for me to see. It popped up on her iPad, the one that auto-synced with her phone. Still on for Friday? Can't wait to feel your hands on me again. I stared at it for a moment, not in shock, but in something colder. Still on for Friday. That meant it wasn't the first time. That meant there'd been Thursdays and Wednesdays. That meant all the marketing events and late brainstorming dinners weren't even lies. They were scaffolding, architecture built on my trust. Claire, my wife of 11 years. We met when she was 19 and I was 29. Yeah, I know how that sounds. But it didn't start that way. I was her mentor, in a very real, very non-creepy sense. I helped her build a resume, pushed her toward grad school. I believed in her, in us. She was brilliant, quick-witted, with a sharp instinct for people. She knew how to walk into a room and draw attention without demanding it. I watched her rise through the ranks in marketing like she was born to lead, and I supported her every step. I never felt threatened. I was proud. Her success was ours. Until that message. Until I realized that the person I'd built up was now tearing something down behind my back. And she didn't even try to hide it. I didn't confront her. Not yet. That would have given her the power. That would have flipped the script. I made a mistake. It's not what you think. We were drifting and I was lonely. I could hear the lines before she ever rehearsed them. I'd seen too many clients in my work get blindsided in divorce court because they'd led with emotion, with outrage, with pain. I wasn't going to be one of them. So I let it sit, that message. I took a screenshot and emailed it to a new address I created, one she'd never find. lockboxmercer@protonmail.com. I set up auto-encryption, a second layer of backup. It wasn't just about having the truth anymore. It was about curating it. Over the next 2 weeks, I gathered without tipping my hand. Her iPad stayed synced. Her password habits hadn't changed in years. Same dog's birthday, same backup phrase. She'd gotten careless with success, like nothing could touch her. I copied dozens of messages, flirtatious, graphic, some euphemistic enough to sound innocent, but damning in volume. His name was Marcus Lane, 43, creative director, a title that sounded more like a pickup line than a job description. He worked at her agency, divorced, 2 kids he barely saw, a man who liked being the answer to someone else's boredom. I didn't hate him. That was too easy. I didn't hate her either. Not yet. What I felt was distance, like I was watching our marriage through a window. The things that once held warmth, the way she touched my shoulder in the kitchen, the way she kissed me before sleep, they didn't feel personal anymore. They felt procedural, ghostly. So I started planning. First, the finances. I had always handled our money. Claire had no interest in brokerage accounts, insurance policies, or real estate portfolios. When she wanted something, she asked if we could afford it. I said yes or no. That was the rhythm. Now, I created 2 new LLCs, one under a Wyoming jurisdiction for privacy, the other in Delaware with a legitimate-sounding name, Stonebriar Capital Holdings. Both completely legal, both funneling 25% of our joint investments into new allocations. On paper, they were real. In reality, they were airlocks, designed to keep what I'd built safe from the storm I was about to trigger. Second, the social net. Claire loved her image, her curated life, Instagram-ready dinners, power brunches with the girls, quarterly cabin getaways in Aspen. She wasn't shallow, not exactly, but her self-worth was deeply tied to perception, reputation, how she was seen. So I re-entered those circles quietly, with charm. I started going to her events again, offering to help organize, volunteering for photo duty, the unobtrusive, selfless husband who just wanted his brilliant wife to shine. I reconnected with friends she'd begun to drift from, the ones who always liked me more than her. I planted no seeds, spread no rumors. I just made myself visible again, helpful, humble, present, and I waited. It took about a month before anything shifted noticeably. Claire was used to me being passive. She mistook my silence for retreat, my stillness for compliance. That had always worked in her favor, in arguments, in social settings, even in bed. I let her lead because I loved her, and I wanted her to feel secure. Now that same habit was my disguise. She started to get nervous when I stopped asking where she was. That first week she tested the waters, told me she'd be working late on a Thursday. Then came home at 11:40 p.m. I was on the couch, reading. I looked up, smiled softly, and said, "Long night?" She blinked, not startled, confused. "Yeah," she said slowly, hanging her purse. "We had a surprise client drop in." "That sucks." I got up, kissed her cheek, and walked to bed. No questions, no suspicion, just warmth. That's when she started wondering what I knew. The second crack came the following week at a dinner party hosted by her friend Elise, someone she thought was squarely in her corner. Elise and I had always gotten along, and I made sure to bring her favorite wine that night, unprompted. Claire barely noticed, but Elise did. Her smile lingered longer than usual. I asked about her promotion, complimented her new garden, stayed after to help clean up. Later that night, Claire asked me in bed, "Everything okay with you?" I nodded. "You seem happy lately," I said, turning the question on her. "That's what matters." She didn't sleep well that night. I did. Meanwhile, the lockbox was filling up, not just messages now, but location logs. A contact of mine, an old college friend who freelanced in digital security, helped me set up a tracker. Nothing illegal, just a smart shortcut through a cloud-based shared app she'd once connected for car maintenance reminders. She forgot about it. I didn't. I didn't need to spy on every move, just a few key ones. Like the day she said she was at a quarterly marketing offsite, but spent 3 hours at Marcus's condo in the River District. Or the overnight client trip to Dallas, where she never left the city. Each contradiction was time-stamped, mapped, preserved. I didn't confront her. I archived it all. The final step in that phase was social isolation. Not for me, but for her. I never badmouthed Claire, but I began appearing in all the right places at all the right times. Charity luncheons she'd forgotten to RSVP for. Friends' birthdays she brushed off with maybe. Running into old neighbors at the market. "Where's Claire tonight?" they'd ask. "Oh, probably working late," I'd say with a tired laugh. "She's got a new campaign, I think." Then I'd change the subject, always with warmth. By the third or fourth time, people stopped asking about her and started checking in on me. She didn't know it yet, but her social foundation, the soft, performative layer she'd built over years, was starting to tilt, ever so slightly, and all I had to do was smile and let it. Claire began to unravel in the smallest, most telling ways. The woman who once floated through life on perfectly timed smiles and curated brunch photos started snapping at waiters. She forgot names at events. She repeated stories she'd told 2 days prior and didn't notice when people didn't laugh. I wasn't cruel. I didn't mock her or mirror her fading glow. In fact, I doubled down on being her anchor, supportive, reassuring, still the good husband in public, still the man who held her elbow gently when we crossed streets, who poured her wine at dinner, who stayed quiet when she had the floor. It disarmed her. She didn't trust it, but she needed it. Meanwhile, Marcus was growing sloppy. I saw it in the texts she failed to delete, him joking about how tight her work clothes were, or asking if hubby would notice another overnight. He was arrogant, careless, the kind of man who thrived when things were hidden and panicked when light hit the cracks, which gave me my opening. I sent Marcus a message, not a threat, not even from me, just a screenshot forwarded anonymously from a fake HR inbox I built to resemble his agency's compliance department. Subject line: potential ethics violation, review pending. Nothing accusatory, just the right legal tone to ignite fear. He didn't reply, but 3 days later, their texts changed. Fewer emojis, more paranoia, talk of laying low and meeting off-grid. She grew edgier, snappier. She even asked me, playfully, if I'd ever considered going to couples therapy just for fun. I said, sure. I even booked it. Then I fed our therapist only the version of me that Claire had spent a decade crafting, the stable husband, rational, empathetic, maybe a little distant, but only because he was so logical. It worked. The therapist liked me. Claire grew frustrated. She cried during the 3rd session, claimed something was missing, that we weren't connected. The therapist asked if she meant emotionally or physically. She hesitated too long, and that hesitation was all I needed. The lockbox had grown fat now, full of receipts, messages, calendars, photos. Yes, I'd followed her once, just once. I needed a single visual confirmation. Her hand on Marcus's chest outside that overpriced Thai fusion restaurant in Midtown. Her head tilted back, laughing too loud, too performative. A woman addicted to the thrill of being admired by a man with no substance. That picture sat at the top of the file now. Beside it, a notarized, pre-filled divorce agreement. I had contacted a lawyer, one of the best in the state, 2 months earlier. I paid the retainer in cash. I handed him a file marked confidential with a single sentence beneath my name. This will all make sense soon. We prepared everything, not for court, but for leverage. I didn't want vengeance. I wanted control. I wanted her to feel the gravity shift under her heels and realize, finally, that the ground she stood on had never been hers. It was mine. That weekend, I suggested a getaway. Just us, coastal, quiet, a place we'd gone when we were newly married. She agreed with hesitant excitement. She wanted to believe the distance was closing. She wanted to believe she could juggle both worlds just a little longer. That Saturday night, sitting beside the fireplace of a rented cottage, I handed her the lockbox key. A literal one, small, brass, old-fashioned. She stared at it, confused. I pointed to the small silver lockbox on the table beside her. "Open it," I said. Inside, a printed transcript of her messages with Marcus, a copy of the location logs, the photo from the Thai restaurant, the notarized divorce agreement, a note that simply read, "I've known since April." She didn't speak. She didn't cry. Her hand trembled as she flipped through the documents. Her mouth opened twice, closed again. Silence sat between us like fog. Finally, she whispered, "What do you want?" I answered calmly, "I want peace, and I want the house. I want your signature, and I want this to end quietly." She looked at me like I was a stranger, and in that moment, maybe I was. Claire didn't sleep that night. I know because I didn't either, though for different reasons. I lay awake, watching shadows from the fireplace flicker against the ceiling beams. She lay beside me, rigid under the covers, still holding that lockbox like it might offer warmth. She hadn't said a word since I asked for her signature. She was calculating, I could feel it. Not out of malice, survival. Claire had always been a survivor, even when she had no reason to be. That's what made her dangerous, not her betrayal, but the ability to wrap it in charm, make even destruction feel like a favor. But she couldn't charm this away. Not this time. By sunrise, she had already moved to the kitchen, coffee brewing, mechanically. I entered quietly. She didn't look at me, just slid the document across the table, signed. "I'll want to keep my last name," she said, her voice dull. "And the Audi." I nodded. "You can have both," I replied. "They're just labels." She looked up sharply at that, like she expected bitterness. But there was none left. I was past mourning, past anger. What I felt now was vacuum, space, the clean, sterile absence of who she'd been to me. I left the cottage that afternoon, alone. The legal unraveling happened quickly. Our assets were mostly premarital. What wasn't, she didn't fight for. My lawyer had made sure of that. In exchange for keeping things out of court, she agreed to sign over the house, the second property in Vermont, and the investment accounts I'd quietly shifted during the lockbox phase. Her lawyer called mine twice, trying to leverage emotional distress as a negotiating angle. He was politely informed of the documentation archive we'd be prepared to submit if pressed. There were no further calls. Claire moved into a condo uptown 3 weeks later, smaller, sleek, isolated. But here's the part that matters. I didn't vanish. No, I rebuilt in full view. The day the divorce finalized, I posted a photo of the sun rising over the porch of the Vermont cabin. Caption: "New beginnings are always quieter than endings." That single post got more likes than anything we'd ever shared together. Our old circle noticed. They commented. They messaged me privately, most of them warm. One even admitted, "We always wondered if something was off, but you never said anything." I didn't reply. She saw it too, I know she did. She went dark on social media for a while after that, the way she always did when she didn't control the narrative. One night, 2 months later, I received a message from an unknown number. "I didn't know you were capable of this." I didn't reply. "You made me feel like I was crazy." Still, I didn't reply. "Do you hate me?" That one lingered on the screen longer. Eventually, I turned the phone over and went to bed. She wanted absolution, not because she deserved it, but because her story didn't make sense without it. But I owed her nothing. You'd think the satisfaction would have come from the moment I handed her that lockbox, or from watching her signature harden under the weight of understanding. But it didn't. The satisfaction came 6 weeks later when I realized I'd gone a full day, a perfectly ordinary day, without thinking about her at all. And when I remembered that, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I was free.